I think just collaboration, I think. If I could fit and 90% of educators we all want to share that capacity and do what's best for kids. But sometimes teachers want to be a lone ranger in their classroom sometimes. And I understand
Hmm.
that. But when we work together, we just, we do what's best for kids, and we're going to, across the board, can make big changes. If there was one thing, a change or suggestion, it would just be to be really open and vulnerable with with our educator peers, and be able to come together, because again, the best ideas are when we're all meeting and talking
Yeah.
together, and then we're
Yeah.
just going to bring in a lot of really great work. Like, the best times that I have in my room are when, again, like, the math teacher comes in and he's got a table full of people because there's a geometry test that week, and you know what I mean, they're all sharing their ideas, and we're all just talking together about everything, and the student is just, yeah, it's fantastic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my special guest today is Ashley Ace. Ashley is the Alternative Education Coordinator at Montello School District in Montello, Wisconsin. Ashley, thank you so much for being on Brighter Together.
Thank you for having me.
So, Ashley, tell us a little bit about your role and about Montello.
Yeah. Montello is a rural district in south central Wisconsin. My role as the alternative education coordinator is I support our students who don't necessarily fit into that mold of the traditional classroom. We are lucky enough to have a virtual school, so the Montello Virtual Charter School within our building, which has been really incredible. So I support all of our students who are fully virtual, who are doing a hybrid version. And then I also support students within our building who might be considered at risk or are, struggling with the traditional classroom. And then on the opposite end are students who are thriving in the traditional classroom and may need something, extended or beyond that. So I'm kind of working to create plans and support the teachers with, again, any student who maybe is struggling with that traditional classroom.
Yeah. The thing that I'm seeing more and more in education is individualized, not just for years and years and years, IEPs, individualized education plan, it's like always been about the student. But I'm seeing that come over into mainstream and into, general education, which is so cool because, not everybody's going to be a rocket scientist. Some kids want to be welders. Some kids want to fix hair. Some kids want to be a stay-at-home person, and so
Absolutely.
it's nice to see that that emerging in education, which is
Yeah.
exciting. So,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
how did you get into this role? Like what brought you to where you are today?
Well, I started as an elementary teacher, so teaching kindergarten and first grade. And similar to that, right? I was seeing our students who didn't qualify for IEPs, or who, the traditional classroom wasn't working for, and our systems weren't in place to be able to support those students. And so it kind of happened over time. I started by going back to school and getting a special education license. And that wasn't necessarily to be a special education teacher, but I wanted to support the kids in the classroom. And so I was still the regular ed teacher, but I had more training and more resources to support the students that were coming into my classroom with some specialized needs. And so I was able to support them, whether or not they had an IEP, or if they did have an IEP, right? I was able to support them in that least restrictive environment and including them into the classroom. So that's kind of where it began. And then it kind of evolved from there. And now I'm supporting more of the high school end with some of those resources. So within our virtual school, I am starting to bring in some trade prep programs where I'm able to send kids out of high school with a certificate, right? An industry recognized certificate
Nice. Yeah.
in HVAC, plumbing, all of those great things. Our virtual school does have a few cosmetology classes, so kids can take those as electives. So again, sending them out already kind of having some things under their belt to help them to be more successful.
Nice.
That's kind of where it
Nice.
started for me. Yeah.
So how many students does Monticello have versus how many are in your alternative program then?
Well, it's kind of all over the place right now. We just got into second semester, so I've seen it grow, little by little.
Okay.
I have about, I want to say less than 20 in our fully virtual program that are off-site, right? But then I have upwards of 40 to 50 that are just kind of coming in as a hybrid version where they come to me and they say, "Here's what I want to do. Do you have anything that can help support that?" And so they're, again, in the building taking courses here, but then also coming into my space and being able to take a class here and there to kind of support their needs. So it's a little bit of both. As for our students who are just kind of, in the building thinking about either at risk or advanced learners, again, probably about 20 students that we're kind of creating plans for on either end of that traditional classroom setting.
Right. So this is not just for like severely disabled kids, and it's not just for kids that are at risk of dropping out or something like that. You've got the full gamut of
Yep.
things that you guys are doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And this is the first year that we've had this role. So we're learning along the way kind of what the kids' needs are and how we can best support them. It's a work in progress, but it's been really successful so far.
I was joking in one of our meetings, like we're building the ship while we're riding a bike.
Yeah,
I was like,
absolutely.
I was like, people say building a ship while you're sailing it, but it's a little bit,
Nope,
even a little
it's
bit more complicated than even that.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely. The
yeah,
constraints of
so
the system sometimes have to make us be really creative in how we're going to meet the needs, but we're
right.
here to do
And you
that, so
shift. Sometimes you
yeah,
just have to it's like,
all
okay,
the time.
we're
Mhm.
shifting,
That
we're
didn't work,
shifting
let's
now.
try this. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly, because you only have them for this much, like
Mhm.
this much time, and for those of you that are listening, I've got my about an inch between my fingers, it's like it's just there's not that much time that you get them for it, for them it seems like an eternity, but for us
Mhm.
it's a blink of an
It
eye.
is, absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say, since this is a new program,
Mhm.
what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced?
I think trying to meld it, so oftentimes students will come into my space and their schedules don't fit, right? I really want to take this class, but I can't fit it in, so we're trying to be creative in those ways. I think sometimes within our fully virtual program, being able to connect with the families if they are, um, the struggles of just being in a rural space where like maybe families are living farther away or they only have one car and the parent took that to work, and so some of those constraints I think can sometimes get in the way. um Also just kind of matching our curriculums. So we are really wanting to be in a standards based. We've That's been what's really been helpful in meeting the kids' needs, is making sure that they're, meeting these different standards and showing proficiency. But some of our online curriculum doesn't match that. So being able to still continue to support our students in what we know is best practice when the curriculum doesn't necessarily match that. So we've been
Yeah.
getting creative and working with the students and kind of digging in deep to some of those curriculums that are more of just percentages and A's, B's, and C's versus standard based. So those have been challenges, but we're here to kind of work them out, and the students are really great at working with me and give me a few days and let me dig into this and come back. So it's
Yeah.
been really good though.
Yeah, and the standards sometimes even that can be, it's like how do you when you're talking about individualizing education and individualizing plans, um, the standards don't always line up, do they?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being able to get creative in how we can have students show their proficiency, right, in a
Yes.
in a way that works for them, and also it has to match this system that isn't always
Yeah.
set the
It's a
best
broken
practice.
system, let's be
Yeah,
honest, it's a
absolutely.
broken system, and it's frustrating. This is where I told you, I was like, "Sometimes I get on my soapbox," this is one
Yeah,
of them. It's like, you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole all the time, and then that's what we're measured as schools, we're measured on that, and it's like, how do you it's frustrating to me to because you and I both know that everybody that's working with these kids cares and is working really
absolutely.
hard,
Mhm.
and yet you're held to a standard that doesn't meet the needs of the kids that you're working with, and makes you look like you're not doing your job. And it's like, that to me, I kudos to you. I would pull my hair out. I honestly would.
Thank you, thank you. To me, that's the exciting part of education, is getting to be creative
Yes.
when the system doesn't always, work itself out, or budgets. Right now, everybody is just saying we need more support, we need more special education teachers, we need more occupational therapists, we need more people, but we don't have, there's just not money in the budget. And so how can we share our capacities and share what we know to support kids in the best way
Yeah.
that we can. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
that's been
that's
huge.
a it's a challenge. It's a
It
challenge
is.
every and it changes every year too. That's the other
Mhm.
piece of it, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
So, what do you see for this program? Like, do you see it like exploding, just steady growth? What's your thoughts about that as it goes
I
now that
think
you're a
it's
semester in?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really fantastic. The teacher, Mrs. Crawford, who worked in this position before me, she retired over the summer, and so she laid a really great foundation, which has been fantastic. And then I'm just trying to continue to grow it. And so the little things that I've been finding, different things like world languages, right? How can we support
Mm,
those? We know that in these rural spaces, we don't always have a teacher, right? So if we lose a teacher, we get 0 applicants sometimes for another, Spanish teacher or different things. And so how can I support that online? And so I was able to dig in and find some different pieces. Like, there's a couple of sign language classes within this online curriculum that is really neat and something we probably could never offer on our own.
right.
We wouldn't have enough need for it. But if we have this subset of students who want to take it, and then I'm able to offer it online, it's been really neat. Also, the trade prep program that I was telling you a little bit about has been really successful. We were going to just do a pilot this spring and kind of see how it goes. But the students I've already had 4 or 5 say, "Can I start it right now?" And so I've been able to get them into that,
Oh,
and
nice.
support them. Yeah, I've had a student who says, I need a history course, a history elective. It can't fit into my schedule. Do you have anything? Oh, and by the way, right? By the way, I'm really interested in religious studies, right? Like, when I leave here, I want to go to a religious based college, and so I'm gonna dig in deep and try and find, a biblical studies class, if possible, for different
Neat.
students. So, it's been really neat to, again, be able to individualize and give them kind of what they need in those ways that maybe wouldn't be offered in our traditional classroom settings. So I think it has continued to grow this year.
Neat, neat. So is it like the stuff that you're talking about, is that kind of similar to like a career center where they can like look and learn and try different things, or is that kind
Yeah.
of, is it like that?
Sure, absolutely. So, we actually, because we have this virtual charter school,
Hmm.
within our kind of bigger school, we're able to have a bundle of classes, and then even beyond that, as long as our budget makes it work, we're able to reach out to our curriculum people and say, "Hey, I have a student who's really interested in this. What can we do for them?" And they can take that class. They take the class, and as long as it lines up with our history credits or can be
Oh, right.
electives or
Hmm.
different things, we can
Right.
match them up, and then it can count for some of those courses. So that's been
Yeah.
really neat.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
It's interesting. My son is in the Air National Guard, and he's in 2 months he'll be off to basic training, and then he comes back and he has to do technical school, and then he has 6 months on base that they're going to have him because they're getting these new F-15 jet planes in Selfridge, where
Interesting, yeah.
in Michigan, and he gets a year's worth of college once he gets past his basic training. And I was like, well, what do they, I was asking him that the other day, what does that equate to, like how, and he's like, I don't know the formula, mom. I just know that I'm not going to have to take some of those classes and I'll be a year in. And I'm like, well, he's 23. He's like, he wants to be an engineer and he wants to fly, good things. Those are all good
Yeah,
things. But again,
absolutely.
it's like the same kind of thing, but and he's not young. He's 20. Like I said, he's 23 and he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
now seeking college out. And he worked for me.
Mhm.
He's worked for me for the last, and he was a 2020 graduate. Poor baby. Mm. Yeah. So, yeah. So the last 6 years but I did the same thing. I don't know what I wanted. I
Right.
went for a year, quit for a year, went back
Yep.
part-time for a year, quit for another year, and then got serious. But that's 4 years before I was even ready to
Mhm.
figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And even
Absolutely.
that's morphed.
Yeah, it's
I'm an
been
SLP, but I don't practice
absolutely.
coach every day.
Went my initial college experience was for an elementary educator, and now I'm sitting in more, middle high school type stuff. I still support the elementary, but, as this alternative education coordinator, I never thought I would be interested working with these high schoolers, but I've found that
Yeah.
I love them. They're great, so
What if every student could work with a therapist who brings not just credentials, but years of experience and wisdom to the table? At Lighthouse Therapy, most of our therapists have over 16 years of real world experience. We don't just fill seats. Instead, we find therapists who've seen it all and know how to help. And every new therapist is paired with a mentor to help them guide them every step of the way. Whether through virtual, hybrid, or in person delivery, your students are getting services that's thoughtful, experienced, and genuinely human. Visit lighthouse-therapy.com/brighter together to learn more. And when you have that passion, kids know when you're
yes.
being honest or when you're
Yeah.
faking it.
When you're authentic.
They lock onto that authenticity really fast. So Yeah, and when they feel like you're on their side, it matters. It
It
really
does.
matters. They may
Absolutely.
bluster and, but
Mhm.
still, yeah,
Sure, sure.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, we also what's really neat too is within our, again, having this virtual charter school, we're able to support kids based on their needs as well. So if a student is struggling with, a math class, we within that program they have classes that are called accelerate to geometry. So it's not necessarily, this full on 5 unit full semester course, but it's a good basis to get them ready for geometry or algebra. So those have been really neat as well. And then if a student is unable to pass a class, or if it's been a struggle for them and they do fail, we're also able to support them in some credit recovery courses too, so they can
Oh,
earn
nice.
that credit back, whether or not that's with me during the school year or during our summer program. Kids are able to do some really neat credit recovery so that they don't fall too far behind, and can again show proficiency in what they missed throughout the school year. They can show that within our online classes, and then we can meld the two to say, nope, they've mastered and showed the proficiency in all of the standards, whether or not that was in the classroom a little bit, virtual a little bit, but we can see that it's there, and
Nice.
we can get them going. So
That's amazing because
it is. It's
one of
been
the things that these kids that have dropouts, they come back there. When they do come back, they're so
exactly.
far behind. Yeah.
Yep.
So
And
getting
so
them, getting them the credits they need and getting them as quickly as they can because you know that life is still hard. What made them
yes,
drop out before is
is
probably still
still a
hanging out
struggle.
there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, it's been really neat to be able to support kiddos again on both ends, whether or not we're, you know, they're taking some advanced courses. Again, we might not have enough students to fill a full like calculus class here in rural Wisconsin,
Mm,
but we can offer it online, and then our math teachers support in the building. So that's
nice.
been really neat. That's also something that we've started this year is our core subjects have a virtual support hour. So
Nice.
so students are able to come into my space and get support for math, English, science and social studies, and then our fully virtual kiddos can also log on, and our teachers are able to support through a video conferencing situation as well. So that's been really helpful for kids. Before a test, they come in and study or do review packets with the teachers and things like that. So the virtual support hour has been successful.
So how did this it sounds like the person before you kind of helped set it up, but
Mhm.
what were the steps that were taken if you know them to get this live? I mean to get buy-in, I guess, cuz you can't do this alone. You've got a district behind you, you've got administrators behind you, but you also have to have the teachers
Mhm.
and the people that you're pulling in to do these things. They have to be on board as well. So I'm curious about how that came
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah, and again, Miss Crawford did more of that legwork. Absolutely, she was somebody who got this off the ground and got it all running, and it was very successful under her, and so I think just having her the teacher buy-in was there, and she um even though she did a lot of the fully virtual, she was also still an employee here in the building. So we're
Mhm.
going to all of the PD with the teachers. The
Oh,
teachers are
gotcha.
all hearing what we're doing, right? So I'm
Mhm.
still having these relationships with the teachers. And our teachers are also ones who grade our online materials. So it is
Okay.
still right. So the students, again, I am an elementary educator by trade, and so I don't have an English, major in order to be a licensed teacher. And so our English teachers who are licensed educators in that area are grading and giving feedback, and our science teachers are giving grading and giving feedback for our science classes.
Sure.
And so that's been really great and kept us all really connected when we're all collaborating and working with the students on how to support them. So I
Awesome.
think
Awesome.
that's part of it too, is being in the building. I think if I was working from home or maybe didn't have the relationship with the educators, I wouldn't have as much buy-in, but they've all been
Yeah.
really supportive. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for
that's been
sure.
great.
And when you have people that love the kids, it's definitely, yeah. And to see a child be successful who hasn't been successful in the past is beautiful. It's a
It's
beautiful thing.
absolutely, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
I
And
have a
seeing.
few elementary students who come up into my space too, and they just to be able to be like that big kid in
Mhm.
our space, they light up too, and that you can just see this maturity come out of them because they're in the big space, and so they'll come up and maybe do science and social studies in my space, and so it's just been really great all around.
So those are your accelerated kids, the kids that
Some
are.
Sometimes
Yeah.
accelerated, sometimes our students, we have a couple of students who are in our special education program at the elementary level, and being in the classroom. Again, inclusion is our number one. We're getting them in as much as possible, but sometimes it's not the best environment for them, or maybe during that
Gotcha.
certain time. And so, if they're taking, they might just take again like a hybrid version where they're in person most of the day, but maybe they're just taking one science class online or one social studies piece online. And so they will come up to our space to take that. And so that way they're not in the special education room. They're still like, you're a virtual student for this class. You're going to go into the virtual classroom. And yeah, they like that a lot.
So when the year begins, because this is logistically, holy moly, this
Yep,
is
it's a lot.
logistically a lot, a
It is.
lot. I mean, I know schedules as a
Mhm.
therapist and know what that takes, just trying to
Mhm.
get
Mhm.
50, 60, 70 kids together and have a time to see them and whatever. Um, and then have them go to that place and get to that place, and oh my
Mhm.
goodness. So is it something that you guys start like I'm thinking about for like the next school year.
Mhm.
When does that process start to think about, okay, these are the kids that I probably not yet, I don't know, but I should let you answer the question and try to answer it for you.
Right.
But how do you do that?
Yeah. So, a part of my contract is that I do work for 6 weeks out of the summer. So again, oftentimes teacher contracts have the summer off, but I'm working closely with all of the educators in the building, because then I work 6 weeks out of the summer to help with again credit recovery or any classes that students were not able to fit in during the school year. So those questions are already happening, and then I'm just working collaboratively with our families at home who are fully virtual. I'm working with again special education or elementary teachers at that level to see what their kiddos need. And then once and it's kind of it can change because IEPs are not necessarily in September or at
No, they're
semester
not. Yeah,
change.
you can't do.
They're all over, right? And so
Yeah.
oftentimes I will be working with a family or a special education teacher who will come to me in October and say, "Hey, the IEP we just met, and we think this is going to be the best environment for them. Can you get them signed up for this science class or this social studies class or this piece online?" And so we will just work together at that time, right, to get it set up.
Gotcha.
So I mentioned how I have kids in my room all day long, right? It's just like a classroom, but those virtual support hours where staff are helping our students, they come into my room, so then I get kind of a second prep hour.
Gotcha.
There's some prep
Okay.
hours throughout the day, which has been really helpful, whether or not I'm video conferencing with fully virtual families who don't come into the building to check in on them or how are they doing, or just, kind of sending out emails, meeting with our representatives for our fully virtual programs to ensure that we have all of the classrooms set up and that passwords are working and technology is working and all of
Mm,
that good stuff. So that has been really helpful logistically wise, right? Because oftentimes I get someone who, again, in October is saying, "Can you get them in quick?" And it's like, "Yep,
yeah.
what do they need?" They're in fourth grade. Perfect. I will get that set up, get everything taken care of, and then send off their passwords and everything, and then get all their workbooks ordered and things. So, logistically, it's been helpful to have those
That time.
prep
Yeah.
hours throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yep,
Amazing, amazing.
it
Yeah,
is.
you've
Yes.
gotta be organized, that's for
It's
sure.
absolutely,
Super
and it's
organized.
right, it's collaborative. So,
Yeah.
I'll give props to our high school principal who has really helped me to, meld kind of the 2 pieces of the in-person and then the online, and how can we support all of it, has been really helpful. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
So, one other question, and this one is you can't save money because, we all need every school needs more money.
absolutely.
But if you could in your world fix miraculously one thing and never have to deal with it again, what would that one thing be?
This one might go along the lines with money just because, I don't know that I can fix this either, but it would be technology.
Mm,
It's like yesterday I got some middle schoolers logged into their online Spanish class. And they know more about technology than I do. They're
yeah.
fantastic at it, but some keyboards aren't working, and then some passwords aren't working, and you're like, so it would maybe be that piece, but also um I think just collaboration. I think if I could fit and 90% of educators are right. We all want to share that capacity and do what's best for kids. But sometimes teachers want to be a lone ranger in their classroom sometimes, and I understand
Mhm.
that. But When we work together, we do what's best for kids, and we're gonna across the board gonna make can make big changes. So, if there was one thing, a change or suggestion, it would just be to be really open and vulnerable with with our educator peers, and be able to come together. Because again, the best ideas are when we're all meeting and talking
Yeah.
together, and then we're
Yeah.
just gonna bring in a lot of really great work. Like the best times that I have in my room are when, again, like the math teacher comes in and he's got a table full of people because there's a geometry test that week.
Uh,
Um, and you know what I mean? They're all sharing their ideas, and we're all just talking together about everything. And the student is just, yeah, it's fantastic. It's
yeah.
really good
Sounds
about
like it. Sounds like
the
it.
buzz.
S- So I'm sure you've piqued the interest of somebody out in our audience. Where would they
Mhm.
go, Ashley, to learn a little bit more about this program and maybe pick your brain a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is montelloschools.org. And so that is gonna be the best place, and within there, you'll see kind of all of our different, schools, because we also have a really cool environmental charter school.
Oh,
It's called
neat.
Highmark, so that's been really, really fantastic. So if you go to our website and you can kinda go out, you can see our schools, and then there's a virtual school section that will have all of my information in there.
Okay.
So absolutely, that would be a place to reach out to me. But if you're also interested, our environmental charter school is again in our building, and they're fantastic too, so check them out.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And for those of you that are listening and don't know, Montello is Montello, two
yep,
L's.
absolutely.
Just
Yep,
so we're clear. I never want somebody to be listening and go, I don't know how to spell it. I can't find it. It's
sure,
not a tough one, but
sure.
Charlevoix is a little bit harder to spell than
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
You get that French in there, and it's like, oh my gosh, it doesn't sound anything like how you spell it. I never could spell very good either. Anyways, I'm so good. One of the best things for me was spell check when I
Yeah,
became a therapist and was doing reports and going, oh, look at
absolutely.
that, spell checks and
That's
Grammarly.
helpful. Yes, absolutely.
Excuse me. That's so great. So, well, Ashley, it has been a real pleasure to have you on this show. You guys are doing amazing work, and
Thank you,
the
thank
kids
you.
win because of what you guys are doing. So, thank you for
I
being willing
appreciate
to
that.
come in and talk about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.